Hey, what's going on, you guys? This is Madam, and I'm coming back to you once again. This time, we're going to go over to the crime section of CNN, and this is about 28 women filed suit over a night of terror in an Indiana jail, alleging incarcerated men bribed jail officers for keys. Two women said they were assaulted. The article is by Emma Tucker, and it says two lawsuits saying female prisoners suffered physical and emotional and psychological injuries from Clark County Sheriff. The two lawsuits say female prisoners are really having a real issue down there. 28 incarcerated women in the Indiana jail have alleged two separate federal lawsuits that they were threatened and assaulted, including two who they were assaulted last year by men incarcerated in the same facility who, according to one of the lawsuits, bribed a corrections officer with $1,000 to obtain the keys to their jail cells. The women are suing Clark County Sheriff's Jamie Noel, former Clark County Jail Officer Dave Lowe, and unidentified jail officer in two federal civil rights actions filed in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Indiana. The lawsuit stems from events that the plaintiffs say took place in the Clark County Jail in Jeffersonville on the evening of October 23rd into the morning of October 24th, attorneys for both lawsuits told CNN. The first lawsuit, filed in June of 21st on behalf of 20 named women, alleged that men incarcerated at the same facility threatened, assaulted them over multiple hours after Lowe gave the men keys to access the women's cells. The second lawsuit was filed on July 25th on behalf of 8 additional women who are not named, according to Steve Wagner, an attorney who filed the lawsuit. It describes what they call a night of terror at the jail and said two men obtained the keys in exchange for payments of $1,000. One woman in the first lawsuit alleged that she was assaulted during an incident, and a separate woman in the second lawsuit also alleges there was assault as well. However, there were no charges filed on these allegations, according to William Perry McCall, an attorney who filed the first lawsuit back in June on behalf of the 20 women. Attorneys for both lawsuits told CNN that the women are not speaking publicly about their claims, citing reasons such as emotional distress and to protect their identities. Both lawsuits say the women suffered physical, emotional, and psychological injuries in violation of their constitutional rights. The July 25th lawsuit accuses Noel of failing to properly staff the jail, train jail officers, and supervise them to make sure that they maintained adequate security at the jail. It adds that these systematic failures allowed numerous male assailants to have free run of the jail for several hours, resulting in a night of terror for the plaintiff and other victims. Noel declined to comment on the lawsuit, nothing that the litigation is pending. Noting that the litigation is pending. However, in a statement to CNN, Noel's attorney, Larry Wilder, said the events of October 23rd were the result of an unforeseen criminal action of a rogue corrections officer. The individual in question chose to abandon his training ethics and morals and made an literal decision to mortgage his career and his future by allowing inmates to access to the jail keys. Wilder said the sheriff is committed to ensuring that nothing of this magnitude or scope has ever happens again. But he is equally committed to debunking those untruths that have been alleged by those who are attempting to reap financial gain from the crimes of David Lau. Jail officials launched an investigation immediately after becoming aware of the events, Wallace said, which included a review of security footage and recorded interviews with corrections officers, men incarcerated at the facility, and over 40 women prisoners. As a result of the investigation, Wilder said the Sheriff's Department is making an immediate change to the physical structure of the jail, as well as reviewing procedures and practices. Lowe was taken into custody on October 25th on felony charges of official misconduct and aiding, introducing, or causing escape, according to court documents. He is currently out of jail on bond awaiting his criminal trial in November. According to the Clark County Sheriff's Office, Lowe has not yet entered a plea deal. Attempts by CNN to reach out to Lowe for his statement in response to the allegations were unsuccessful, and his attorney said he could not be identified. Lowe said in a statement to the Washington Post that he was coerced and assaulted into making a false confession about taking money from the men in exchange for the keys to the women's pods. Wait a minute, hold on. Wait a minute. Coerced. Okay, alright. Lowe claimed his statements to the Post that he made a mistake that ultimately allowed the men to steal the keys and that it was an accident that resulted from being overworked. He also told the newspaper that he only became aware of the attack and days after it occurred because he was working in another area of the jail. Attacks continued for multiple hours, Suit said. The events began to unfold on October the 23rd into the early morning hours of October the 24th, when two male inmates used keys provided by Lowe to enter each of the pods within the facility where the female detainees were housed, according to the July lawsuit. The men threatened the women, including threats to kill them if they hit the button to call for officers, according to the first lawsuit filed in June. Then they left the pods and returned with several more male inmates who wore towels and blankets covering their heads and faces, according to the lawsuit. Over the course of multiple hours, at least two of the females were assaulted, the lawsuit says. Additionally, the men grabbed and groped the women, exposing their genitals to the women and making sexual and threatening statements. Multiple hours into the attack, one of the women hit the emergency button and began screaming to call for correctional officers, at which point the men left the pod, the lawsuit says. A corrections officer who opened the door and turned on the lights advised the women that they lost their dark privileges, meaning the lights remained on in the women's area for the following 72 hours. The lawsuit says, in addition, the women were put in lockdown for the next several days and were taken to holding cells to be questioned. A few days later, the lawsuit alleges correctional officers removed the women's personal items such as razors, pillows, and blankets. The lawsuit filed on July 25th by a different attorney on the behalf of the 8 women unnamed incarcerated at the same jail says that Lowe gave the male detainees the keys to the interior area of the jail where they could access numerous restricted areas in exchange for $1,000. The women suffered significant emotional and physical injuries, including but not limited to nightmares, bleeding, vaginal tears, and genital herpes. The lawsuit says women left in a constant state of fear, attorney says. In a statement to CNN, Wagner Wagner says the jail officials retaliated against the women after the alleged assault, according that he said the missing keys to their pods were still unaccounted for days after the following incident, leaving the women in a consistent state of fear that the male inmates would return in the nights that followed. In this environment, given the threats of the assailants, and under the utter lack of sympathy or protection by the jail officials, the women understandably initially kept quiet about what happened. They were in fear of their lives, Wagner said. He said that the women decided to report the incident after being encouraged by family and friends. Wilder said in his statement that the interviews conducted by the sheriff's detectives with women in custody at the jail as part of the investigation following Lowe's arrest yielded information that is in direct opposition of the allegations made in the civil rights lawsuit. So, it's a lot going on in Indiana. It's a lot going on with their prison system. It's too much to be in fact. Like, how it's no amount of being overworked. Okay, it's no amount of, if you overworked, I know people have to make money and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you ain't gonna be able to make no money if you ain't gonna, like, if you overwork. You know what I mean? It's so many things. You should have called off that day or got a write up. Like, look, I need a personal day or something like that. If that is the case, if it was human error. However, if it was just he gave her $1,000, and then to say that you were coerced into saying that by who? Details is definitely going to make better sense of this in the next coming weeks and months of this investigation, and I just feel bad for those female detainees that had to endure that. I mean, it's bad enough that it happens on the outside, but on the inside, it's supposed to be a system to where those things like that do not happen. And if he is convicted, I hope that he gets a nice little lengthy prison sentence, and I hope that the women detainees ultimately get the help that they need. Definitely mental help. After something like that, you'll never expect that, hey, I'm in jail. I'm not thinking that, keys to my pod is going to be given up or offered up so that somebody can come and violate me in the middle of the night. It must have been horrifying. But with that being said, you guys, I definitely would like to hear your side of the opinion. How would you feel if it was a friend or a family member that had to deal with this kind of thing? Are you familiar with this? Has this actually happened to someone that you know? Let me know about it in the comment section, as we always do. That's where the conversation happens. And with that being said, I want to say thank you guys so much, and I will get with you in the next video.